Hello and welcome to another episode of The Sheltered Life. As always, I'm your host Nick Stockton. I've got some great viewer questions this week, but first, let's get to this week's shelter solution. One of the primary concerns for a shelter dweller is maintaining your health. And one of the best ways to do that is to get regular exercise. Exercising has lots of great benefits, such as working off those canned rations, raising your spirits, and making sure you're in good physical condition in case you ever have to leave your shelter and face the no doubt Mad Max-like conditions of the outside world. I recommend adding some kind of physical activity to your routine every day. Now, on to our questions. Our first question is coming in over shortwave radio.
Hello? Nick, are you there? This is Chris J. from Winnipeg. You give a lot of great tips on your show, and I want to follow them all, but I've always had trouble prioritizing. What would you say is the most important thing to focus on when setting up a shelter?
You're absolutely right that there are a lot of factors to juggle when it comes to living in a shelter, Chris. Like making sure you have plenty of rations, and remembering to bring ways to occupy your time. However, what I feel is the most important is that very first step, constructing your shelter. The world can end in a lot of ways, and your shelter has to be able to withstand them all. If you are careful in selecting materials and design, there's no safer place on earth than inside your shelter. Why? When the clock hit midnight on December 31st, 1999, my shelter was so secure that I didn't feel a single nuclear detonation. Our next question comes from this bottle I found. Dear Sheltered Life, I have heard a lot about global warming and the melting of the polar ice caps. If the world is flooded, destroying global infrastructure and plunging the world into a new dark age, how will I keep in touch with my friends? Sincerely, Garrett B. Well, Garrett, I can understand your concerns about social isolation. Finding a reliable form of communication with others who've had the good sense to prepare for the future can be a big challenge for shelter dwellers. One thing I found you can always rely on? None other than the Postal Service. No matter the situation, you can rely on a hardworking and determined postman to deliver your mail, even if you find yourself in some sort of water world. Our final question comes from the ARPANET. Rudy Y asks, as December 21st, 2012 approaches, I've become increasingly worried about my level of preparation. I've followed your show since the beginning, so I think I'm in better shape than your average shelter owner. But I can't shake the feeling I'm missing something. Is there anything I could be overlooking? That's a great question, Rudy. As any longtime shelter dweller knows, the little details are often the most important. In this case, it's making sure that your shelter is airtight. There are many doomsday scenarios associated with this date, one of which is that the entire Earth may explode. However, if you properly sealed your shelter, you should have enough air to survive in the vacuum of space until a passing ship can pick you up. This is also where an airlock may come in handy. If you remember this, along with your other preparations, you'll be just fine when 2012 finally rolls around. Wait, what did yours say? Well, that's it for another episode of The Sheltered Life. Keep safe out there, and don't forget to keep sending me your questions. This is Nick Stockton, signing off.